Earlier in the course, we asked you to reflect on if your program was a business or not. And regardless of how you view your program, I hope that so far you've seen that there are a lot of concepts from the private business sector that you can really utilize in your OST program. In this unit, we are going to be talking about business plans. And in order for a program to meet level 2 requirements for QRIS in Massachusetts, you must have a business plan. This is for school-age programs, out-of-school time programs, it's for center-based programs, and for family childcare. Everybody at level 2 must have a business plan. So let's take a quick look at how that requirement is worded for OST. It's very similar for all the other groups as well. So as you can see, it says that the program has to have a written business plan. So that needs to include an annual operating budget and that it's used to guide planning, set goals, and make decisions. Once you get to level 4, it requires more stakeholders to be involved and it has to be reviewed frequently. But as a baseline for level 2, a program has to have a business plan in place. So as people are looking at QRIS, some of them have said, why do I need a business plan? My organization has been around for years. We have out of school time programs here in the Boston area that have been operating for 100 years. You think, why do I need a business plan now? That's for a new program. That's for somebody who's planning their organization or their business. But there is a lot of value in creating a business plan and revisiting it. So let's look first at a quick definition of a business plan. So a business plan is a formal statement of business goals, reasons they're attainable, and plans for reaching them. It can also contain background information about the organization or the team attempting to reach those goals. I'm going to warn you right now. Business plans look very different organization to organization. And that's because there isn't one set template necessarily, and it will just depend on the organization and what their business plan is. So here we have a list of some different pieces of a business plan that a organization might choose to utilize when creating their business plan. As I said, business plans will look very different depending on the organization and their priorities. So if they're making a large change to the organization, they might choose to look at their strategic priorities or strategic plan. The current financial status of the program will come into play here. If they are really struggling, then they will probably look a lot at fund development and financial projections and really look in that area. If there's a large project that they've recently started or completed, such as a capital campaign or building a new building, that will likely be included in their business plan. And if they're a new organization, it will look incredibly different because they're going to be starting from scratch and need to think about each different piece. The areas that are highlighted on this slide are parts that are really important for all programs, particularly when thinking about an after-school program or anybody in the out-of-school time field. So let's look at a few examples of how these look in real business plans that have been created for programs that are in the youth development field. First example we have here on the screen is the executive summary from Aspire Public Schools. And the executive summary is just a summary written usually by the executive director. It could be written by the group who's writing the business plan, giving just a really brief description of the organization and kind of the environment in which the business plan has been written. So I like this example because it shows in the fourth paragraph, that in the first 5 years it focused on a certain area and that it really establish itself as the premier provider of public school choice. And then it goes on in the fifth paragraph to say that now Aspire is at a strategic turning point with an opportunity to fulfill its longer-term vision of improving education statewide. So this is great because this executive summary really lays out the environment and makes us, as the reader of this business plan, it allows us to understand where this business plan is coming from. Why did they choose to revisit their business plan now and rewrite it now? Because they're at a strategic turning point. So it's likely that this will be focused on really thinking about their new strategic priorities and how they're going to address those. So the executive summary, very important. It makes sense of why certain pieces will be included, why not, what the direction of the business plan is, and makes it just more clear to anybody who's reading it. Another piece that is vital, especially to organizations in the youth development field, is the mission, vision, and values piece. Because mission drives the work and the program, it really needs to be clear, written, and revisited so that it always drives the program's direction. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but it's really important that it's written in the business plan. Here we have a business plan from a Girls Inc. Local chapter of Girls Inc. of the Island City. And they do a great job of just being very clear very early on, their mission and vision, their position statement, their values, and they even include Girls Inc. National Girls Bill of Rights. So it's clear up front what the vision and mission of the program is. So anybody looking at this business plan says, all right, here is what's going to drive the rest of this business plan. I understand the mission of this organization, and everything that follows this should be tied back to this mission. If that's not the case, then it needs to be revisited. This is important not only for the people reading the business plan, but is important for the people creating the business plan. It's their time to go back and look and say, are we still working on accomplishing our mission and our vision, and we're holding true to our values? Here I have a great example of strategic priorities and also milestones and deliverables. I personally really love this example that the Girls Inc. of Island City had in their business plan. They have their clear goals, so they have strategic priorities. In their business plan, which we have in the course room for you to download and look at as an example, they are clearly looking to grow their program. So grow the number of girls and teens served by 39%. So that's very specific. And they have other areas that they're working on as well, but it is clear that their business plan is very much based with their strategic priority around growing. They have a lot of market research based around how much can they grow, who is their market in the area that they serve, and can they get those girls to come to their program. So the strategic priorities will vary program to program. Some might be very specific. They might be looking to grow, which a lot of our examples that we have in the course room for you to download are looking to do. And some of the strategic priorities, they might be, more focused on building a program rather than necessarily growing by 50%. That might not necessarily be where your program is. But the strategic priorities really will give the organization an idea of what the short-term direction and goals of the program is. There's not often a time to discuss these priorities, so when creating a business plan, that really gives a clear time to discuss the priorities and think about what is the short-term direction, what are the short-term goals, and where should we be focusing our attention. But one thing that I do like about how then Girls Inc. does address this is they do give themselves specific milestones and deliverables. This is great because they provide measurements for meeting goals and holding the organization accountable for what they're trying to achieve. It is easy sometimes to create these and have these lofty goals, but when you have these concrete numbers involved and concrete deliverables and milestones, it's great to come back and say, wow, we are really on the path to reaching our goal, or we're falling a little short here. What is something that we can change? We're in year 2 of our business plan. What's something that we can change in year 2 to really make sure that when we get to year 3, we're back on track? A financial analysis is incredibly important because if you are not financially stable, then your program's not going to be able to continue. So a financial analysis can look different depending on the program. It could be confirming that the vouchers will sustain the program with the current level of paying attendees as well. It might address what amount of grants need to be received in the next 2 years to maintain the revenue goals. It could also be looking at the neighborhood in your program and thinking about what areas you could grow to increase the financial impact on your organization. So it could look very different. Here in this example with the Aspire Public Schools, remember the people who are looking to work on education in California, they have a lot of different pieces in their financial area because they are looking to make some big changes. But just a few pieces to look at. So they have some total financial requirements. So they have said very clearly at 50 schools, Aspire's system-wide budget will be over $100 million, of which 94% will be schools and 6% will be for office budgets. So very specific. That's great. They also go on to make some very nice graphs so that people understand, thinking about, all right, where is this money going? How is it being spent? And then they talk about sustainability and look at, as they grow to more schools in different years, at what point will the increase in offices reach a point where it maybe won't be sustainable and we'll need to move to a regional area. And then they do a great job thinking about the sources of funds. So being very clear about where the funds are coming from, and then addressing what other philanthropy will be required in order for them to reach these goals. So that is just an example of what a financial analysis might look like. Like I said, that one specifically can look incredibly different program to program. Another piece that is really important for a business plan, I especially think so in the youth development field because there are a lot of different people who will likely read your business plan, including funders and board members, is the frequently used jargon and abbreviations. If someone on your board reads the business plan, they might not know what QRIS is or you're referencing to the core competencies. So it's important to address any jargon that people outside the organization might not be aware of. In the Girls Inc. business plan, they take the time to go through some of the Girls Inc. National Girls Inc. programs. So as they talk about some of the programs that they plan to utilize in growing their program, they talk about Eureka or Sporting Chance, so different things from Girls Inc. Nationals program. And so they explain in detail what they are. You really want to make sure that nobody gets held up in your business plan simply because they don't understand what the abbreviations or the jargon that they're using is. So now that we've gone over a couple examples and we thought about what generally a business plan is, and we've understood that it will look very different, but we understand that these are some of the pieces that can be included. In the course room, we have 3 examples that you can download and look over. I want you to just take 10 minutes. They're very long, so just take 10 minutes to briefly review one of the examples. If your organization has a business plan and you have an opportunity to get a hold of it and just quickly glance over it, please do so, and just to get your hands on something and look through the pieces a little bit more. When you come back, we're going to discuss why business plans are so important in an out-of-school time program and how they can be used most effectively.